Hey there! Welcome to the IDP Plus podcast. My name is Axton. Today I'm going to cover some potential trade targets that you should consider for this offseason. Sit tight, we'll dive into some Dynasty Fantasy Football trade talk in just a moment. Welcome back, repeat listeners, new listeners. I'm happy to have you. In this one, we're going to go over 5 offensive players that you may want to consider acquiring in your Dynasty leagues this offseason. These players, I suspect, will see a sizable increase in value or at least pull more valuable stats and production for your fantasy team than what it will cost for you to trade for them at this point in the offseason. So, without further ado, we can go ahead and jump right into it. So, player number 1 here is going to be Chicago Bears wide receiver DJ Moore. He is 27 years old, so this you could consider this a contender or even a rebuild buy, honestly, because he's probably got a good 3 or 4 years left. Plenty of window for a rebuild, and I think we see a good enough jump in production, and I'll talk about that here in just a second for your contending rosters as well. So DJ Moore is currently sitting as wide receiver 24, looking at the Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings. So he's barely making it into the wide receiver 2 category for Dynasty. At this point in his career, he's been a nice wide receiver 2 in about every season except for his rookie season. So we've got a good track record here so far. Nothing over the top, but nothing underperforming by any stretch of the imagination. So, with the talent, we've kind of always been left wanting more. The talent and metrics told us that this isn't all that he has to offer, and the situation has also been a glaring issue throughout the entirety of his career, both in Carolina and Chicago. And he's always had some sort of adversity to overcome situationally. This season, Ben Johnson comes to town from Detroit and verbally commits to the development of the Chicago quarterback Caleb Williams. He brings staff with him. He's signing a number of very noteworthy offensive linemen as well via trades or signings this offseason. So he's what we're seeing is he's backing up his words with actions. We love to see that in a new coach. Just kind of bodes well for the future of this team. And I think because of this new regime change and the additions made to the offense in Chicago, Caleb Williams will be in an outstanding position to take a big step forward in his sophomore season in the NFL, which is going to lend to those pass catchers. Again, as I was saying, the coaching staff is backing the quarterback. They're trying to protect him and making additions that support their words. So actions following words, big deal. And we're also seeing Keenan Allen left down, so that just kind of leaves more targets to DJ Moore. But it's not necessarily a huge loss for this team because they have a young and talented Rome Odunze who steps into that Chicago wide receiver 2 role, who's actually a highly touted prospect coming into the NFL. In case you guys don't remember, a year ago or so, he was probably one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers in the draft. So definitely a guy who's got a lot of potential. Not to mention so we're expecting, I would expect with a jump in Caleb Williams, we see a jump in Rome Odunze, which takes pressure off of DJ Moore, helps with his production as well. So, that said, the Bears also have a high-end draft pick, which I'm seeing in a lot of places could be Ashton Jeanty. So, also, another thing that it's really going to help about everybody in this offense is just take attention away from everyone else, put a little bit more on Jeanty, put a little bit more on Caleb. Just make this defense have to focus on something more than just a single player, which, in the past, theoretically would have been DJ Moore. So, draft capital, they're drafting offensive linemen. There's a lot of things that are going well for this team. And the protection around Caleb, I would say, is what matters most. Then also adding to the weaponry boosts the value of DJ Moore. So there's, again, less eyes on him. The defenses have to focus on more than just one piece of this offense. So, and even having been the focal point the last few years, he's been able to outproduce this wide receiver 24 ranking when it comes to just raw fantasy production anyways. So I think there's more to be had this season, and the arrow's pointing up. So all this considered, offensive line improvements, weapons, a sturdy defense. I didn't even mention that. The defense has they've been adding to the defense as well, so we ought to see a better unit out there, better coaching staff, etc. It's got me feeling like DJ Moore is set for more of a high-end wide receiver 2 season than a low-end wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. I think this could be a nice buy for really any kind of team this offseason. As I mentioned earlier, rebuild, contender. Matter of fact, I just saw him go for David Montgomery straight up in a league of mine, a half point PBR, no premium, super flex league. And I think that's incredible value. I'm telling you, go test the waters on your local DJ Moore manager in your dynasty leagues. So that's my first player this week. For the 5 buys episode. Number 2, we're going to jump into it as well. Stay in the wide receiver lane. And we're going with Davante Adams, the Los Angeles Rams wide receiver, 31 years old this year. Just signed this offseason from having been released from the Jets, went to the Rams. Now he's paired up with Matthew Stafford in LA. So arguably, Davante Adams has been one of the most consistent wide receivers to ever do it for us in fantasy football. He goes to probably the best landing spot for wide receivers this season, and again, he's going to pair with Matthew Stafford, who is historically been the wide receiver whisperer. He literally turned Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp from zeros to heroes single-handedly. So I truly believe there's some behind the scenes things to do with Kupp's departure. I know we kind of saw him just suddenly drop off at he had 21 targets and 14 receptions in one game early in the season, still maintained a good target rate, and then it just dropped off. So I have a feeling there's got to be some sort of behind the scenes something there that it could explain just the drop. Maybe the team said something about potentially departing. He didn't take that so well. He wanted to finish his career in LA. Maybe he got upset and things didn't end up so well. So I don't know. Maybe things got exaggerated and he just kind of stopped seeing so much of the targets, or maybe they started scheming the game more around Puka Nacua. Or maybe a combination of the two. Either way, I think there's something else there. I don't think it's just Cooper Kupp falling off the face of the earth. So for Davante Adams, I think the sky is the limit here. Think back to Cooper Kupp's prime days as a Ram, but with more health, reliability, consistency. Fantasy Pros Dynasty Value has Davante Adams as the wide receiver 42. I would imagine mainly because of his age, so this one will be primarily for your contending rosters looking for a title in 2025. It might cost you a second-round pick, mid-second, if even an early second, I wouldn't mind. Second-round picks hit at generally, about a 25% rate? So go ahead, take a second-round pick for someone who's going to way outproduce about anybody you draft in the second round. So maybe you have to pair a couple of third-round picks and a light player or something roughly in your dynasty leagues. I think he is very attainable. So go test the waters again on your Davante Adams manager in your local leagues. Considering he's finished top 14 in 8 of the last 9 seasons, you're more than going to get your money's worth in production out of him for another year or two at least. So at that cost, who even cares if it lasts only one season? You're likely getting a wide receiver 1 production for pennies on the dollar. For a second round pick, you're getting top 12 play. I mean, what else could you want for a contending roster? So I think that's why Davante Adams is an outstanding buy for your contending rosters this offseason. Talked about Davante Adams. Now let's get into our last wide receiver for this episode. We're going to talk some Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Bucks wide receiver who's 29 years old. Another contender buy here is Godwin knocks on 30. He'll play the 2025 season at 29 though, so he's not quite 30. He's got a season left in his 20s. This could also really apply to Mike Evans in some form or fashion. They kind of hold roughly the same value. I think at least Fantasy Pros had them right next to each other. So the production's pretty similar as well. It's just they're different kind of players. And one week it might be Mike Evans, one week it might be Chris Godwin. That's kind of seemed how they seemed to kind of go back and forth last season while they were both healthy anyways. So Prior to his injury, the Bucs moved Godwin to his primary position in the slot at the start of this season. Before then, he was not lined up in the slot, so we kind of saw his production dip quite a bit. Now they moved him to the slot, and he was reaping some outstanding benefits for this team. So he was on route to 150 targets, 1,400 yards, and 12 touchdowns with Baker Mayfield throwing in the ball last season. It was kind of nuts, the kind of production that Baker was able to provide for both of his receivers. So as I mentioned earlier, Fantasy Pros has him at wide receiver 42 in their Dynasty rankings. I think Mike Evans was wide receiver 41. Same with the redraft. Wide receiver 31 for Chris Godwin. I would imagine Mike Evans is very close as well. So we're looking at wide receiver 3 range, putting up the stats that he was, and we're looking at 576 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 50 receptions in just 7 games. Again, extrapolated to a 17-game season, 150-plus targets, 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns. That's an incredible season, and you're talking about the price of a wide receiver 3. So I'm not even really worried about the injury. There was no major ligaments in the knee or any bones broken or anything that shouldn't heal, that he shouldn't be able to heal properly from. There wasn't any major damage. So the Bucs even signed him to a 3-year deal mid-recovery, knowing he was injured. So you got to imagine that if they're willing to sign him an extension for 3 more years, they know he's going to be just fine. That he's not, from what I understand as well, he's met all of his milestones in recovery. So everything's looking to be on track. And so, everything's kind of leading us to believe that he's going to be just fine, which honestly also adds to his shelf life as well, having signed that contract. So he's good for another 2 to 3 years at least. So I'm looking to get him on my rosters personally. Fair offers at his current value. I imagine I've been throwing out offers for mid to early second round pick for starters and just kind of work from there. I wouldn't be opposed to paying maybe a late first. So it just kind of see. I mean, if you throw a mid round first out there and you're the manager that has him now is not really high on him, you might luck out and get a mid-round pick. I mentioned earlier that DJ Moore went for David Montgomery. The value there is pretty drastic. I don't think that should have been a straight-up trade one way or another. So you never know. So check your local manager in your dynasty leagues for Chris Godwin's value. See if he is attainable, because I have a feeling that he is. So given the state of the team, the offense should be playing a ton. The defense is still kind of mediocre. And they're unlikely to add any serious competition given the signing of Chris Godwin. They have Jalen McMillan from last year, so things should be pretty hum as they were for Chris Godwin pre-injury in 2024. So go get some discount Chris Godwin this offseason. Before we get into the rest of the show, I just want to plug a little bit about the website. Go check out idpplus.com. Right now, we've got a 50% off any subscription. Use code IDP2025 at checkout. Get 50% off. Just check out what we got. We got stats. We got snap counts. You got tons of IDP content coming out. We've just put out a bunch of rookie content. I know the guys are putting out betting content. We've got all kinds of things. We even have a Discord where guys are in there chatting it up 24/7, talking about their dynasty rosters, potential trades. Getting outside opinions can help so much in dynasty. I know personally, I have a few friends that I reach out to when I'm thinking about making a trade, just to see if my mental is thinking right, if other people are kind of seeing this value in the same way that I am. So, and maybe how can I capitalize on that as well? And most of the time, my friends are willing to help. Everybody in the Discord, there's a number of hands that are willing to help you at any point in the day. So it really doesn't matter your time zone. We'll get to you very soon. So go check everything out, idpplus.com. Use code IDP2025 for 50% off any subscription. Give it a chance. Give it a try for a month. If you like, we ought to still have the subscription. If you like it, get yourself a year-long subscription while the deal is good, and lock in all the good stuff. We've got a lot of revamping coming, so there's a lot of good things to come for IDP Plus. So go check it out. see what we have to offer, and maybe we can rope you in. Also, go check out the IDP Plus Bets YouTube. Just go check out the kind of umbrella we have of IDP Plus YouTube channels, and there's tons of good content. Sebastian is an incredible capper, so go see what he has to say right now. He's making bets on the UFL. There's a lot of bets to be had there, and the guy knows what he's talking about. If you need any kind of affirmation, go back to last season and watch some of his episodes. Go look at the results. The guy had a pretty good hit rate, and he wasn't just betting your average minus 115, minus 110. You were getting some serious plus money. So go check out what he's got to offer. Check out all the other podcasts. We've got a bunch going on right now, and it's only going to get ramped up from here. So, well, enough of that. We'll get it back into our last two trade targets for this offseason. We're done with the wide receivers, so we're going to jump into one quarterback that I like particularly for this offseason. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback at 25 years old. Sunshine, if you have ever watched Remember the Titans, had a rough go of it last season. Team injuries, his coaching failures, his injury, you name it. There was all kinds of just catastrophic failure on this team last season. So now they have new fire in Jacksonville. They've got new coaching, much better protection on the offensive line with the signings they've made. Robert Hainsey is a center with a 73 overall PFF grade in both run and pass blocking. That's his average. So looking at a good mark there for the center. They just lost their previous center to retirement, I believe. Number 2, they signed Patrick McCaffrey. He had a 70 pass block grade from PFF. So there's two positions of need that this team definitely desperately required in this offseason. They addressed it immediately. Not to mention BTJ has a year of pro football experience, and he just killed it last year as a rookie. Now, they don't have Christian Kirk. But it really doesn't matter because when BTJ stepped on the field, Christian Kirk was a non-factor. But they also lost Evan Ingram. But at the same time, they had Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange showed promising flashes throughout last season when he stepped into the role. And now he's going to take over at tight end. I think he is talented enough to take over this role and be effective at it. So then also, if you look at the backfield of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, that duo proved to be good enough to kind of keep the team being able to push the ball down the field and extend drives, and at least be able to give this team opportunities to be able to make some big plays. So, that considered, the Jacksonville Jaguars have also added some will also have some firepower to add in the draft. They have 10 picks to improve weaknesses or use those bartering chips to essentially do the same thing, but maybe trade for some vets or something along those lines. So I would imagine they draft some receiving help, but likely not with their 5 overall pick. Either way, Brenton Strange and Brian Thomas Jr. will be massive focal points of this offense next year. So I think Trevor Lawrence is really going to like throwing to these two young guys. Again, showed a lot of promise. BTJ, as a rookie, amassed 1,282 yards, 84 receptions on 133 targets, and 10 touchdowns. Again, as a rookie, those are incredible numbers. He's probably going to be a first-round pick in about any league next year, maybe with respect to Superflex. So the new coaching staff also has talked about their intention to focus on the protection of their franchise quarterback, whom they paid a serious bag to last year to the tune of $55 million a year. And not to mention, they backed it up with all the free agent signings that I talked about earlier, where they signed Robert Hainsey and Patrick McCaffrey. So, again, another case where the coaching staff is backing the quarterback, and then they're also backing that up with actions. You don't like to necessarily just hear words. You want to see them prove it with moves that they're making, signings, tradings, whatever the case might be. You like to see actions backed up, or words backed up with actions. So there's really only a couple of noteworthy offensive linemen, but nonetheless, they were addressing the positions of need immediately. So, for Trevor Lawrence, Fantasy Pros has him as quarterback 17 in their Dynasty rankings and also quarterback 21 in redraft rankings right now. So, I think there's more to be had with Trevor Lawrence this season. I truly believe that the changes we've seen in the offseason, regardless of the losses in Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and the center, could vault him up to near QB1 territory by this time next season. I think we could see him finish around a more QB 10 to 12, 14. I think it could be realistic in the realm of possibilities for him. We're just looking at the rankings for Fantasy Pros. Justin Herbert was at QB 10, which is solid. So the top 10, I got to figure, is pretty solid. And I mean, were guys that kind of fluctuate within that top 10, but they always kind of end up there. So, but those last two spots for QB1 at QB 11 and QB 12 seem pretty up in the air. And I think Trevor Lawrence and I know Trevor Lawrence has finished as QB 13 and QB 8 already. So there's definitely potential for him to move up from this QB 17 several spots and, prove to be well worth the investment that you put into him. So in this range that he's kind of of guys who are ahead of him, you're looking at Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa. All guys who are probably going to be up and down in this QB2 range, and I think T-Law is as good as any to amass any one of them on any given season. So I don't see any of these guys as a lock for a QB1. So again, they're all beatable candidates. Sign me up for some Trevor Lawrence 2025. Last player here we've got for today's episode, Christian McCaffrey. I know many of us might be scared off from some Christian McCaffrey, 49ers running back. He is 29 years old. Needless to say much about this past year. Nobody really expected it to go how it did. But here's what we do know. When Christian McCaffrey was back and in gameplay, he wasn't quite what he used to be. As if he came back too soon from the 49ers holding hope for a playoff berth last season that kind of fell apart pretty quickly with injuries and all kinds of miscues, and it just all kind of fell apart. We also know that when he went down with the PCL late in the year, but as messed up as it might seem, I think we might consider this a best case scenario. If he were to get an injury that could end his season, I think he lucked out in just having had the PCL. And here's why I say that. Because the PCL is not a major ligament, such as like the ACL, which it controls lateral movement. For a running back, that's extremely important. The PCL more or less just keeps the shin from going backwards too far. So again, I think it was an injury that's going to require a long enough recovery to end his season, but I don't think it's one that's going to affect his gameplay to the tune of taking a drastic step back from where we're used to seeing him, or at least be cause for that. So that said, the 49ers also traded Jordan Mason to Minnesota. This shows, A, that they're comfy with Garendo at running back 2 behind Christian McCaffrey, and this also shows that they're feeling good about CMC's recovery enough to the point where they only have a single solid backup in company to Christian McCaffrey. If they were worried at all about his recovery, say he was having setbacks or they just weren't sure, why wouldn't you keep 2 solid running backs on the roster? Instead, they traded Jordan Mason, got him out of town. This tells me that they feel really good about Christian McCaffrey, where he's at in recovery. So that tells me everything's going well. Again, assuming the treatment worked for his Achilles early last year, and that the reason we were seeing him, I guess, play kind of down and not used to what we were seeing is because maybe, again, like I mentioned earlier, the 49ers thought they had playoff hopes. Christian McCaffrey was technically cleared. Even though he wasn't 100%, he was probably still trying to get on the field because tendonitis is something you can kind of manage. So in my eyes, it's something that maybe he came back too soon. They thought they had hopes. They didn't. Now, next season, they reevaluate where he's at this offseason. Things are looking really good, meeting all his milestones, recovering well, and now they feel confident enough to send their RB2 out for draft pick compensation and keep only one running back behind him. To me, this is all a recipe telling us that Christian McCaffrey is going to have plenty of time between the time that he went down and next season to fully recover from this PCL injury, get right on the Achilles, and come back and be a lethal force in the NFL. So we're seeing the 49ers ship people out, but also we're seeing them make moves that kind of tell us they're still not out of this thing, that maybe they're just trying to revamp this team in some weird way. But anyways, going back to Christian McCaffrey, Fantasy Pros has him as RB15 in Dynasty and RB2 in Redraft. With this amount of time to recover, again, I think he could produce around top 5 to 10 like we typically see from him this season at his ceiling, while everyone's kind of expecting him to fall off. So I think this is a great opportunity to maybe take that gamble and see what the CMC owner is wanting in return for a pick, because you never know, he might just be wanting to get out from under that. If you can get in on him for a very late first or early second, or some combination that's not going to cost you too much more than that at once, maybe break it up between a couple of players, I think you're going to put yourself in a great position to contend in 2025. And again, as I mentioned earlier, second round pick only hits on about 25% of the time, maybe 3 out of 12 picks on average. To me, send that second round pick out. You're going to get well over whatever production you get out of any second round pick, even if it does hit, and you're still looking at slim chances there. So consider me game on the potential reincarnation of Christian McCaffrey in his late 20s. He's overcome worse, and I think you all know what the ceiling looks like for Christian McCaffrey. So those are my 5 buys. We've got DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears, Davante Adams of the Rams, Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Bucks, quarterback Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. So that's going to wrap up our 5 Dynasty buys show. Again, check out all things IDP Plus on YouTube. Check out idpplus.com and use code IDP2025 for 50% off any subscription. Really, guys, go check out the YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I'll be checking things out and interacting as I see things pop up. So thanks again for everyone for rocking with us and watching the episode. We'll see you next time on the IDP Plus podcast.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.